Whitney, and I will be showing you how to make your very own pair of Terrazzo earrings. So a fun fact about the word terrazzo and the pattern itself is it comes from the Italian word for terrace. Now, marble workers in Italy would be left with all these remnants from tiling and floor jobs, right? These odd pieces that you have to cut off to fit a corner right, or those of you who have done home improvement know. They couldn't really be used for anything else. So what they would do is actually break these pieces up, grind them up, add them to clay, and then they had a completely new, totally different flooring material. These could be ground down and made really smooth. And of course, then the top would have that patterning that we know as terrazzo. So I actually have, this is actually my ring holder that I made, but this patterning of flecks of color and some geometric shapes, and yes. So that is what we will be making today, are some terrazzo earrings. And I will be using Fimo Leather Effect Clay, and this is made by Staedtler. It is a polymer clay, so you do need to bake it for it to harden. And the thing I really love about this clay and why I wanted to use it for this project in particular is that it dries flexible. And by dries, I mean, again, you do have to bake it. So after you bake it, it will remain flexible. And it's so very lightweight, which is great for making earrings. I don't know about all of you out there, but I know I've never managed to be able to wear big, heavy earrings. I'm kind of a wimp when it comes to that. And clearly, I have some lovely large earrings on today. So I really liked using this clay for this project. Of course, any polymer clay could be substituted if you needed to. So I'm just gonna open this up. And it does come with these markings, which make it really easy to sort of cut off the amount that you need. And I like to just directly use scissors with polymer clay. I find it cuts so easily. Just put that there. Give this a little bit of kneading. And I'm gonna lay this on my mat. This mat is actually from the Sculpey tools line, and it is a baking mat and working mat. So I can go right from working with my clay to having a complete finished piece, and then it goes right into the oven or toaster oven. I really love that. I find I'm always damaging my pieces when I try to pick them up and move them onto another surface. And this just takes that right out of the equation. And I also have a acrylic roller from Sculpey tools. And that's, I mean, you saw it didn't stick to the clay and it made it flat, which is what you want a roller to do. So I've made a flattened piece here. I used half of the clay. Really, you'll be able to size how much you need based on the project you're doing. I want to make sure to have a big enough piece here so all of you viewing will be able to see what I'm doing. I'm going to bring out some more colors that I have hiding over here. And really, this effect is so incredibly easy to do. All you need is the clay, which we've talked about, and some scissors. Really, any old pair of scissors will do. I like these because they're small. And they're really like a kid scissor, but they're pointy. I'm just going to cut off a little strip of this gold ochre color. You can see I'm flattening it out just a little bit with my fingers. I really don't have to do anything there too much. And I'm going to start cutting pieces off and dropping them. Now, I do want these to be quite small. Really smaller is going to be better, and you'll see why when we get to the next step. When we roll it out again, these small pieces of clay are really going to spread out. And I'm trying to drop and cut in a random-ish pattern. Of course, aesthetics always come into play a little bit, right? But try not to get too bogged down in it or caught up in moving pieces or getting the right shape, because it's all going to change anyways. I will say, because it's polymer clay, you might notice it's sticking to my scissors. I don't know if you can see that tiny, tiny piece there. So you will have to pick it up and drop it off. And we're going to repeat this for all the colors. I'm just going to do maybe 3 colors here. And do have some bright, bright colors, but I think the gray base gives it a little bit of sophistication. If you get too wacky with colors, well, one, I always approve of really wacky with colors. But you can go a bit away from the Terrazzo effect and find yourself into the confetti fad of the 1990s, right? All those really bright, very similar to Terrazzo patterns with lots of neons and squiggles and all kinds of fun stuff. There really is no wrong way to go about it, though. But if you want something a bit more subtle, maybe I should pull out an example here. This is a nice subtle example. I've got some beige on white with a light yellow and then a slightly darker yellow. Do I need to go down? Is that showing up all right, Tessa? Awesome. I have my friend Tessa here to tell me that I have everything as it should be and where it should be. Make sure I don't go too far off book, right? All right. And I lied, I do want the other color because I think it really makes it. So I'm gonna add this peachy color too. And this is actually what the color scheme that made most of the examples you can see on the boards. And it's okay if 2 pieces are actually touching. Some sort of OCD part of me always wants them not to, but it works out in the end. And a little piece. And I should probably note, because I said you're just cutting, but I do, maybe you've noticed watching, I keep changing the angle that I'm cutting at, and that is giving me slightly triangle-shaped pieces. So I haven't, rolled a ball and dropped every color in a ball. They are sort of geometric, and they do have some dimension to them. And now I have my guardrails here, and these are just to help me keep the clay the exact same thickness throughout. Any of you who like baking know it's really easy to roll out clay or pie dough and have one section be ½ an inch thick and the other section be less than ½ of an inch thick, and you don't even notice it until it's too late. But this really helps keep everything nice and even. So for that, I actually didn't move these. I rolled it out at the same height that I rolled out just that gray slab, and it pushed them down a little bit. And looking at it, I can see now I want just a little bit more. I know these gap areas are only going to expand, so I'm gonna add a few more pieces. Maybe some green there. And I think this one is going to become a wacky 90s confetti color scheme, which I'm okay with that. Maybe add some somber yellow ochre in there. Counteract it a little bit. And there. Give it another roll. Okay, now I've flattened that as much as my guardrails will allow currently. So I'm gonna flip those on the side, and I'm not sure if did I mention these are balsa wood, or rather basswood, and they're just little strips of wood, and really anything could be used here. You could use a dowel rod, you could use, I have some skewers over here which are pretty thin. Maybe you have some paint stirrers around, or, oh gosh, popsicle sticks. I'm sure you will all think of something that will work for you there. So now, that second pass, my clay is being pushed further down into the surface. It's all starting to look more and more like one piece. And I do like to start in the middle and work my way out and then back. To be honest, I'm not quite sure where I picked that up, but that is how I roll out my clay, and it's how I roll out my pies. You all can comment in the chat and let me know. Okay, so I think I'm ready to cut some earrings out. I have here 2 different sets of Sculpey shapes. And these, I like to think of them as cookie cutters, right? Because they really are essentially a cookie cutter. It's just that we're not cutting out cookies, we're cutting out earrings. And these come in a variety of shapes. They come in true squares and rectangles. And they also come in these wacky shapes where this is sort of a triangle expanded. And this one I really love. I don't even know what I would call that shape. It's great though. And it does have it's not sharp, but it's a thinner side to the tool, and then this side that's folded over the metal. And really, you're meant to use this. We'll call it the sharper side. But I want my earrings to be mirror images, right? I don't want the same exact shape on both sides, shaping the same way, facing the same way, pardon me. So I'm going to flip this over now and cut. And you should pause a moment. You can really spend a great deal of time almost peering through this cookie cutter. And, oops, sorry, I won't peer right now, but you all can peer. Peering through the shape to really find what is the best composition. Or you can just plop it down. And it's really artist choice there. And I plopped it down, and that's actually pretty good color mix there. Now you could keep going. I could fill this all up, but what I am going to do for demonstration's sake is peel that off. And I mean, again, using those cutters makes that so easy to do. And I have my Sculpey 5-in-1 tool. Now this has a magnetic end, so it just, these different tools can pop right in, which is really handy, right? So it means my workspace isn't cluttered with lots of things. Well, it is, it always is, but it's a little bit less cluttered. And that I have 5 tools all neatly organized in their stand over there. And what I like to do, I'm a leaner, so I'm gonna not lean in, because you all don't wanna see my head, you wanna see the earrings. But I am really just sort of tapping at an angle underneath the clay here. And the reason why I am doing that is you might see, I'm not sure how high definition our camera is, you might not be able to see, there are some just burrs, some little bits of clay left, and it's not quite as tidy as I would want it to be. So I'm just tidying up a little bit. And there's also, you may notice, because this is a piece of metal, it has to join somewhere, right? There has to be a joint. And while it is made very well, and it's a very thin joint, you can sometimes end up with a little, I'll call it a bump out. And again, it probably doesn't look like much on our camera here, but it bothers me enough to want to smooth it down. And I feel like it is something you would definitely see in person. So I just like to smooth out all those little bits. And you can really just keep going with this. I mean, it can become a bit obsessive. I'm gonna try to keep it really simple for you all and just smooth out my edges, but I could go in and smooth out any fingerprints I might have on the top. And that's again why this mat is so super cool, is I don't have to touch it and then end up getting my fingerprint on it again. It might sound like a small thing, but it does show up when they're baked. And with something as small as jewelry, it can really cover the surface of that earring piece, right? And it distracts me, so I like to smooth out fingerprints. Okay, so now I have these pieces, and I just want to show you a few other things that you can do with this, because it's such a simple process, right? There are some things. We have texture tools here, and this is also made by Sculpey. And I could, let me just roll that over here so you can see what that is. And so I could go over the earrings with that also. And I'm going to go in different directions. And kind of give it lots of texture. Now, if you don't have your own texture tool, or if you're just not looking to purchase one just yet, that is okay. There are so many available household items you could use. Just experiment and play around. I actually found using the side of the little bolster sticks that I was using can be really fun. I leave some great impressions. So I have this one here where it's almost like a little bit of cross-hatching, nothing too crazy, but I think it really sort of livened up that surface and made these really fun. Set that there. So you can do lots of things. I could think of maybe golf balls, or you could use plastic knives. All kinds of things could be used to make texture in clay. And of course, other clay tools could be used as well. So I'm going to set these aside so I can keep working on the mat. And let's just see. So if I end up with my extra piece, there are a few things you can do with a piece like this, where you, let's imagine I can't fit any more earrings out of this cutout. What I do is push those pieces together. And then I'll push this piece together. I'm not trying to marble it or anything like that, at least not just yet. But I'm just trying to salvage some of my clay. So I'm making almost a seam. And then I would add more of my accent colors in tiny, tiny pieces. And actually layering the process like this, well, it does just sort of happen organically because you have more clay and you're going to use the rest of your clay, right? It will also give you more variety in the size of color spots that you end up with in the end. And more variety is always good, right? Especially in a pattern. I'll just add a few to that one there. And now I'm just going to roll this out a little bit thinner than it was before. And now I would be ready to make more earrings, more cookie cutouts, all kinds of fun stuff. You can also make your own template with this, right? If you have a shape that you want, it's so easy. Cut a piece out of paper, even tracing paper, so you could trace a shape that you want. Cut it out of tracing paper, press it on top, and just cut right around it. And to do that, use an X-Acto knife, or there is, of course, in my 5-in-1 tool here, do also have an X-Acto type craft knife. I'll put that back. All right. One more thing I want to show you for those extra bits of clay that remain. I always like to, we'll pretend this is a small scrap piece because we all know this is not a scrap piece. This is a big piece. But I want to show you how to do some marbling. And really, I'm just going to roll this and then grab my roller. It's going to do some wacky things because you're working with a big piece of material here. Roll this out. And then keep folding. This might actually be a bit too much to work with. And you can just use your hands to keep going back and forth. Roll it out. And then I'm going to go in like a zigzag. And I would keep doing that for quite a while because there's not a ton of color in here, right? We just used those little pieces. But that gives a nice sort of flecked surface, and I could keep going and pull out more color from that, or I could leave that lovely marbled background and add more color and just keep the process going. So I have a piece over here. These were made using that process. So you have some big chunks of color and then this mottled, almost sort of marbled color. Ooh, and actually, I like the back side of this one better. Isn't that the worst when that happens? All right, so that is pretty much everything. You can just keep this project going, cut out small ones, attach them to larger pieces like this one here, or make a whole string of them together. It's so easy to do. After you bake them, let me roll this up here. After they're baked, and the baking, pardon me, the baking instructions for Fimo are to, you can use a toaster oven or a convection oven, or and you just want to make sure that you don't set the heat higher than 245. 65. Thank you, Tessa. I'm very bad with numbers. I tried to peek at my cheat sheet here and couldn't see it. 265. And then you will have what is a semi-flexible piece. And to turn these beauties, these are actually quite psychedelic. This is using one of those rainbow marbled sort of coils. I think I want this side to be the right side, so that makes this the wrong side. I'm going to get my screw posts. And I don't want to open up that glue. I think, yes, I have one right here. Now, to determine where to put this, I actually found, and especially if you are making these for yourself, you have a rare opportunity then to go in front of a mirror and try them in different shapes. And just keep rotating and see what fits. Follow your heart there. Come on back to your working table and put that screw post in where you want it. Now I'm using E6000 glue. If you are doing this with kiddos, with younger artists, I suggest using a tacky glue. It doesn't have to be the quick dry. This is why I had handy, but a tacky glue is going to be thick enough for it to set up and hold while being non-toxic. Whereas E6000, it is toxic. It has an odor to it, and it's also, I put it in the realm of like a thick super glue. So I don't really want kids working with a thicker version of super glue. That sounds like a disaster waiting to happen. So keep that in mind when See, that'll happen. It'll fall on you. Kids will have earring backs stuck to them forever. So then you just press it down. And I would do the same for the other side. And it really is that easy. I will note, if you are not wanting to use the post backs, fish hooks, right? Which is a terrible name for an earring hook, I think. Or at least a terrifying one. But fish hook earrings, they look like fish hooks, and you have this little loop here where it attaches to a hole. So be sure to make a space for that. So in that event, you need to decide before you bake it which side is up. And I have a little tool here. You could also use a bamboo skewer or a toothpick to simply make a hole. And actually, I would try to be closer to the edge than I was there. That's what happens when I'm talking and excited and making things all at the same time. I just go for it. So I would put that a little closer at the top. We'll make another one here. There we go. I focused that time. And then this has a slightly larger side to it that I can use to really open that up. See, a little closer now. Now if you make that same mistake and you don't want to do a hole on the other side and you're devastated and you wanted that earring to be the final earring, you can always just trim off a bit of the clay there. Well, I think that is about all the tips and tricks and technique that I have for you. I will say with this project, scissors are your friend. They are going to get you that great terrazzo patterning, and don't forget, you can also use them in the end for shaping your earrings or cutting off any sort of mistake moments, anything like that. I certainly had fun doing this. I hope you have fun and make your very own pair of terrazzo earrings.